It was a dark, moonless night. The streets were empty save for the sound of tires rolling on wet asphalt and the soft rustling of fallen leaves. A small figure, a woman in her late 20s, knelt beside a young boy, unconscious and pale, his life slipping away with each passing second. This wasn't how Kara Bennett's night was supposed to end. Her shift at the diner had been normal. Tips were decent. The customers weren't too demanding. But now her world was collapsing as her 12-year-old brother Tyler lay bleeding on the cold pavement. Her hands trembled as she pulled out her phone. There was only one number she could call, one person with the power to save her brother, one man she swore she'd never reach out to again. Vito Moretti, the most feared Mafia boss in Chicago. "Please pick up," she whispered, tears streaming down her face as she pressed the phone to her ear. The ringing seemed to last forever, each second stretching out as Tyler's breathing grew more shallow. "Who is this?" a cold, deep voice finally answered. "How did you get this number?" Kara swallowed hard. "Vito, it's Kara Bennett." Her voice cracked with desperation. "Your men attacked my brother. He's dying. I need your help." Silence hung on the line for a moment that felt like eternity. "And why?" Vito's voice was dangerously calm. "Would I help you?" Kara looked down at Tyler's face. So young, so innocent. The blood from his head wound was soaking through the makeshift bandage she'd created from her jacket. "Because I know things, Vito. Things about you, about your operation that the police would love to hear." She was bluffing, but desperation made her brave. "And because deep down, you know this wasn't supposed to happen. Your men weren't supposed to hurt a child." Another pause, then the sound of movement, keys jingling. "Where are you?" Vito asked, his tone shifting slightly. "Corner of Maple and 42nd by the abandoned factory. 10 minutes. The line went dead. Kara clutched her brother's hand, whispering promises that everything would be okay. But would it? She had just made a deal with the devil himself. Headlights cut through the darkness 8 minutes later. A sleek black car pulled up, and the back door opened. Vito Moretti stepped out, his imposing figure casting a long shadow across the wet pavement. He wore an immaculate suit that probably cost more than Kara made in 3 months. "Vito," she began, but he cut her off with a raised hand. "Not here." He nodded to 2 men who emerged from the car. "Get the boy, carefully." The men lifted Tyler with surprising gentleness. As they carried him to the car, Vito turned to Kara, his dark eyes unreadable in the dim light. "You know what this means, don't you?" he asked quietly. "Once you get in that car, there's no going back." Kara looked at the car where her brother was being placed on the back seat, then back at Vito. A chill ran down her spine that had nothing to do with the cold night air. "I know," she whispered. As they drove away, Kara couldn't help but wonder if she'd just saved her brother's life, or condemned them both to something worse than death. What she didn't know was that Vito had been waiting for this moment for years, the moment when Kara Bennett would have no choice but to enter his world again, and this time he wouldn't let her escape so easily. This is just the beginning, and I know you're already invested. You can't leave these characters hanging, can you? Subscribe now so you won't miss how this story unfolds. You're already here. Don't turn away now. The private clinic was nothing like the crowded emergency rooms Kara was used to. Everything gleamed with sterile perfection. The doctors moved with quick efficiency, not asking questions when Vito Moretti walked through the doors. No forms to fill out, no insurance to verify, just immediate action. Tyler was rushed into surgery while Kara stood helplessly in the waiting room, arms wrapped around herself. She jumped when Vito appeared beside her, offering a cup of coffee. "They'll take good care of him," he said, his voice softer than before. "Dr. Levine is the best neurosurgeon in the state." Kara accepted the coffee with trembling hands, but didn't drink it. "Why did your men attack him? He's just a kid." Vito's expression hardened. "They weren't supposed to. They were following someone else. A rival's courier who happens to use the same route Tyler takes home from school." "So this was all just a mistake?" Kara asked bitterly. My brother might die because your men can't tell the difference between a drug runner and a 12-year-old boy? A muscle twitched in Vito's jaw. The men responsible have been dealt with. The cold way he said it sent a shiver down Kara's spine. She didn't want to think about what dealt with meant in Vito's world. You said you know things about my operation, Vito continued, changing the subject. Was that true, or were you just desperate? Kara met his eyes. What do you think? A small smile played at the corner of his mouth. I think you're smart enough to know when to bluff. His expression turned serious again. But let's be clear about something. This help doesn't come free. I don't have money. I don't want your money, Vito interrupted. You know what I want. And suddenly Kara did know. The memories came flooding back, Vito approaching her when she was just 19, offering her a job in his organization. She had refused then, determined to keep herself and Tyler free from the criminal underworld that had destroyed their father. My father's debt, she whispered. Vito nodded slowly. Thomas Bennett owed me more than money, Kara. He betrayed my trust, and debts like that, they don't disappear when someone dies. I'm not my father. No, Vito agreed, his dark eyes studying her face. You're much more valuable. Before Kara could respond, a doctor approached them. Mr. Moretti, the surgery was successful. The boy is stable, but he'll need careful monitoring and follow-up care. Relief washed over Kara. Can I see him? In a moment, the doctor said. We're moving him to a private room. As the doctor walked away, Vito turned to Kara. Your brother will receive the best care money can buy, but in return, you work for me now. Doing what? Kara asked, dreading the answer. Nothing illegal, at least not at first, Vito said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. You'll work at my restaurant downtown. La Familia, it's a legitimate business. Kara knew it wasn't that simple. Nothing was ever just legitimate when it came to Vito Moretti. The restaurant was undoubtedly a front for something darker. And if I refuse? Vito shrugged. You're free to leave any time, but Tyler stays under my care until your father's debt is paid. He checked his watch. You start tomorrow night, 7 p.m. sharp. Antonio will pick you up. As he turned to leave, Kara called after him. How did you know my brother's name? I never told you. Vito paused, looking back at her with an expression she couldn't read. Kara, I've kept tabs on you for years, ever since your father died. Did you really think I'd just let you disappear? The revelation hit Kara like a physical blow. All these years she'd thought she was free, building a normal life for herself and Tyler. But she had never escaped Vito's shadow. As she was finally allowed into Tyler's room, seeing his small form connected to machines, Kara made a silent promise. She would do whatever it took to protect her brother, to pay this blood debt and break free from Vito once and for all. But deep down she knew the truth. Vito Moretti didn't let go of what he considered his. And for reasons she couldn't understand, he had decided long ago that she belonged to him. You've seen how high the stakes are now, but this is just the beginning. What happens next will change everything. Subscribe now and stay with us. You won't want to miss what's coming. Can you walk away now, knowing you've come this far? The glass doors of La Familia gleamed under the streetlights as Kara approached. She'd traded her diner uniform for a black satin dress borrowed from a neighbor. The nicest thing she could find on such short notice. Her heart hammered against her ribs as Antonio, Vito's driver, held the door open for her. Mr. Moretti is waiting in his office, he said, nodding toward a hallway beyond the bustling restaurant floor. La Famiglia was nothing like the greasy diner where Kara normally worked. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over white tablecloths. Waiters in perfectly pressed uniforms glided between tables. The air smelled of garlic, fresh herbs, and money. Kara found Vito seated behind a massive desk, reviewing documents. He looked up when she entered, his dark eyes appraising her. You clean up well, he said, setting down his pen. I'm not here for compliments, Kara replied coldly. I'm here because you've given me no choice. A smile touched Vito's lips. We always have choices, Kara. You made yours when you called me. He stood and walked around the desk close enough that she could smell his expensive cologne. Do you remember the last time I offered you a job? How could she forget? The memory flooded back. She was 19, working 2 jobs to support herself and Tyler after their father died. Vito had appeared at the diner where she worked, offering protection and financial security. I told you then I didn't want any part of your world, Kara said quietly. And yet here you are. Vito's voice held no mockery, only a strange softness. Sometimes fate has other plans for us. He handed her a folder. You'll be working as my personal assistant. The pay is good. The hours are long. Kara opened the folder to find an employment contract and an ID badge with her photo. A photo taken years ago, she realized with a chill. He really had been watching her all this time. How's Tyler? She asked, changing the subject. Stable, awake, asking for you. Vito's face softened slightly. You can see him tomorrow. I've arranged for the best physical therapist in Chicago to start working with him next week. His phone buzzed. After checking the message, his expression darkened. We're done for tonight. Antonio will drive you home. Be back tomorrow, 9 a.m. As Kara left through the main dining room, she felt eyes watching her. At a corner table sat a man about her age, his gaze intense and oddly familiar. When their eyes met, he quickly looked away. Outside, as she waited for Antonio to bring the car around, the man appeared beside her. Be careful, he whispered. Don't trust him, no matter what he tells you. Before Kara could respond, he vanished into the night, leaving her with more questions than answers. Who was he? And why did his warning make her blood run cold? You feel it, don't you? That pull to know more, to understand what connects these strangers whose lives have now collided. This story is just beginning to unfold, and deep down, you know you want to see where it leads. Subscribe now so you don't miss a moment of their dangerous journey. Can you really walk away when the truth is just starting to emerge? Kara's first week at La Familia passed in a blur of training, paperwork, and thinly veiled threats from Vito's associates. She learned quickly that his restaurant empire was just the shiny surface of a much darker operation. Every day, men in expensive suits came for meetings in the back office, speaking in hushed tones about territories and shipments. She was arranging Vito's schedule when the restaurant door burst open. A tall man with salt and pepper hair stormed in, flanked by 2 bodyguards. Where is he? The man demanded, his voice carrying across the restaurant. Where's Moretti? Vito emerged from his office, unnaturally calm. Carlo, this is unexpected. Carlo Fiore, Kara had heard the name whispered among Vito's men, head of the Fiore family, Vito's main rivals in Chicago's underworld. You cross into my territory, Carlo snarled, hijack my shipments and expect me to do nothing? The restaurant had gone silent, patrons frozen in their seats. Vito's men had moved subtly into position, hands inside jackets where Kara knew guns were holstered. Let's discuss this privately, Vito suggested, his tone light but eyes deadly. As Carlo followed Vito toward the office, his gaze locked on Kara. Recognition flashed across his face. Bennett's daughter, he said with a cold smile. You're in too deep, girl. Your father learned the hard way what happens when you swim with sharks. Vito's hand shot out, gripping Carlo's arm. She's under my protection. Remember that. The meeting lasted an hour. When Carlo finally left, the tension in the restaurant remained, thick enough to cut with a knife. Kara was filing documents when the mysterious man from the other night appeared at her desk. We need to talk, he said quietly. Not here, the alley behind the restaurant, 15 minutes. Who are you? Kara demanded. Someone who knows what Vito Moretti is really capable of. He glanced nervously toward Vito's office. My name is Danny. That's all you need to know for now. 15 minutes later, against her better judgment, Kara slipped out the back door. Danny was waiting, nervously scanning the alley. Your father, he began, Thomas Bennett. He wasn't just some small-time criminal who crossed Vito. He was... A car engine roared at the end of the alley. Headlights blinded them as the vehicle accelerated toward them. Get down, Danny shouted, shoving Kara behind a dumpster as gunfire erupted. The car screeched past, bullets pinging off metal. When the shooting stopped, Kara peered out to see Vito running down the alley, gun drawn. His eyes widened when he saw her. "Kara, what the hell are you doing out here?" His voice was raw with something she'd never heard from him before, fear. Danny had vanished in the chaos. Vito holstered his gun and pulled Kara to her feet, his hands checking her for injuries with surprising gentleness. "Are you hurt?" he demanded. "No, Who are you meeting?" His eyes were dark with rage, but his hands on her shoulders were trembling slightly. Kara realized with a shock that Vito Moretti, the most feared man in Chicago, had been afraid. For her. "No one," she lied. "I just needed air." Vito's expression told her he didn't believe her for a second, but before he could press further, his phone rang. The call lasted only seconds, his face growing darker with each moment. "Get inside," he ordered. "Stay there. Don't talk to anyone." As he disappeared back into the restaurant, Kara realized she was caught between two dangerous men. Vito with his dark past and unexplained interest in her family, and Danny with his cryptic warnings and knowledge of her father. The question wasn't whether she was in danger, but who posed the greater threat. "You're caught in the middle of this storm now, just like Kara. The secrets are starting to surface, the danger closing in. Don't you want to know what happens next? What really connects these people? Subscribe now and stay with us, because once you've glimpsed the truth, can you really turn your back on it? Some stories demand to be followed to their end." The hospital hallway was eerily quiet as Kara made her way to Tyler's room. It had been 3 days since the shooting, and Vito had barely let her out of his sight. Today was her first chance to visit her brother alone. Tyler looked better, color returning to his face, the bandages smaller. His eyes lit up when he saw her. "You look different," he said immediately. Kara forced a smile. New job, new clothes. She'd been given an entire wardrobe of designer outfits by Vito's personal shopper. "How are you feeling?" "Better. The doctors say I can start physical therapy next week." Tyler hesitated. "Kara, who's really paying for all this? This place costs a fortune." Before she could answer, the door opened. Danny, the mysterious stranger from the alley, walked in, freezing when he saw Kara. "You," she gasped. "I didn't know you'd be here," he said quietly. Tyler looked between them. "You guys know each other." Danny approached Tyler's bed with a familiarity that stunned Kara. "I've been visiting Tyler every day," he explained. "We've become friends." "What are you doing here?" Kara demanded. "Who are you, really?" Danny's expression hardened. "I think it's time you knew the truth." He pulled out his wallet and showed her his driver's license, Daniel Moretti. "You're Vito's son," Kara whispered, pieces falling into place. "Estranged son," Danny corrected. "I left the family business 5 years ago. My father hasn't forgiven me." "Why have you been watching me?" "Because Vito's been watching you for years. I needed to know why." Danny glanced at Tyler. "He knows everything about you, where you shop, who you date, your work schedule. He has a file this thick." He held his fingers inches apart. Kara felt sick. "That's impossible. I would have noticed." "Would you?" Danny challenged. "His men are very good at what they do." The door burst open. Vito stood there, rage etched on his face as he looked between them. "Daniel," he said, his voice deadly calm. "What a surprise." "Father," Danny replied coolly. Vito's phone rang. His expression changed as he listened. "Get them both out of here," he ordered someone on the line. "Now." Within minutes, security guards arrived to move Tyler to another room. Vito grabbed Kara's arm. "We need to go. Carlo's men are on their way." "I'm not leaving Tyler," she protested. "He'll be safer without you here," Vito said harshly. "Right now, you're the target." As they raced down the back stairwell, Kara demanded, "Why would they target me?" Vito's grip on her arm tightened. "Because they know you matter to me." The admission hung between them as they pushed through an emergency exit. Vito's car screeched to a halt at the curb. As he shoved her inside, gunfire erupted from across the street. Vito dove in after her, his body shielding hers as bullets shattered the rear window. This is more than you bargained for, isn't it? The secrets, the danger, the unexpected connections. You can feel the pull of this story drawing you deeper with each revelation. Can you really stop now when you're just beginning to understand what's truly at stake? Subscribe to follow this dangerous journey because some stories grip your heart too tightly to let go. The safe house was a modest apartment in a neighborhood Kara didn't recognize. Vito moved with practiced efficiency, checking windows, locking doors, making calls. He seemed different here, less the untouchable Mafia boss, more a man under pressure. "We'll stay here tonight," he said, holstering his gun. "Carlo's men will be watching all my usual places." "Why didn't you tell me Danny was your son?" Kara asked, still processing the revelation. Vito's expression hardened. "Daniel stopped being my son when he betrayed the family." "What did he do?" "He chose the wrong side." Vito poured himself a drink. "He thought he could change things, make our business legitimate. When I refused, he went to the feds." Kara sat on the worn couch, trying to make sense of it all. "And my father? What was his role in all this?" Something flickered in Vito's eyes. "That's complicated." "Uncomplicate it," Kara demanded. "I deserve to know." Vito studied her for a long moment. "Your father was my right hand for 15 years, my most trusted lieutenant." He took a deep breath. "Until he wasn't." The revelation hit Kara like a physical blow. Her father, a high-ranking Mafia member, not the small-time crook she'd been told about. "You're lying," she whispered. "Why would I lie?" Vito moved closer, his eyes locked on hers. "Thomas was family to me. His betrayal cut deeper than any other." "What happened to him?" Kara asked, her voice shaking. "The police said it was a robbery gone wrong." Vito didn't answer, but his silence told her everything. Her father's death hadn't been random. It had been orchestrated. "Did you—" She couldn't finish the question. "No," Vito said firmly. "Despite what he did, I could never—" He looked away. "But I couldn't stop it either." Outside, rain began to fall, tapping against the windows. Vito's phone buzzed with a text. "Tyler's secure," he told her. "Danny's with him." "You trust Danny with my brother." "I don't trust Daniel with anything of mine," Vito said bitterly, "but he won't let harm come to an innocent kid. That much of my teaching stuck." He moved to the window, peering through the blinds. "Get some rest. Tomorrow we figure out our next move." As Kara headed toward the bedroom, Vito called after her. "Kara, I never wanted you involved in this life. I tried to keep you out of it." "By watching me for years? By collecting information on me?" she challenged. "By protecting you," he corrected. "There are people who would hurt you just because of who your father was." Their eyes met across the room, and for the first time, Kara saw something in Vito she never expected. Vulnerability. "Why do you care what happens to me?" she asked softly. Vito looked away. "Go to sleep, Kara. Tomorrow will be a long day." As she lay in the unfamiliar bed, Kara couldn't stop her mind from racing. She was caught between two worlds now. Her simple life as a waitress seemed a distant memory. Ahead lay a path tangled with danger, secrets, and a man whose dark eyes held mysteries she was only beginning to unravel. You've seen how high the stakes are now, but this is just the beginning. What happens next will change everything. Subscribe now and stay with us. You won't want to miss what's coming. Can you walk away now, knowing you've come this far? Morning light streamed through the blinds as Kara woke to the sound of hushed, angry voices. Vito stood in the apartment's small kitchen, phone pressed to his ear, his face dark with rage. "Find him," he growled. "I want him alive." Kara slipped into the kitchen. Vito's eyes flicked to her, then away. "We have a problem," he said, tucking away his phone. "Someone leaked our location to Carlo's men." The implication hung heavy in the air. A traitor in Vito's inner circle. "Who?" Kara asked. "Marco." Vito's voice was ice cold. "My most trusted lieutenant for the past decade." Kara recognized the name, the man who'd welcomed her on her first day at La Familia, who'd looked at her with something like pity. He's been feeding information to Carlo for months. Shipment routes, business deals, safe houses. Vito's knuckles whitened around his coffee cup. People have died because of his betrayal. His phone buzzed with a text. They found him. Let's go. Where? Kara asked, alarmed. You don't need to see this, Vito said, his face shuddered. But 20 minutes later, Kara found herself in an abandoned warehouse, watching as Vito's men dragged Marco to his knees. His face was already bloody, one eye swollen shut. Vito, Marco gasped. I can explain. Save it, Vito cut him off. You betrayed the family. You know what that means. Vito drew his gun and Kara stepped forward without thinking. Wait. All eyes turned to her, including Vito's, cold with warning. Don't do this, she said quietly. It's like this. Stay out of it, Kara, Vito warned. You're better than this, she pressed. Something flickered in Vito's eyes, doubt perhaps. For a breathless moment, Kara thought he might listen. Then Marco lunged for a hidden gun and shots rang out. Not from Vito's weapon, but from his bodyguards. Marco crumpled to the floor. As they left the warehouse, Kara's phone rang. Danny? I can get you and Tyler out, he said without preamble. Tonight. You'll be safe away from my father. Kara glanced at Vito, walking ahead of her, shoulders rigid with tension and grief. The decision seemed obvious. So why did her heart feel so torn? The violence you've just witnessed might shock you, but this world is never black and white. Can you really judge what you haven't lived? Kara is caught between safety and an inexplicable pull toward Vito. Subscribe now if you're brave enough to follow her through this dangerous maze of loyalty and betrayal. The hardest choices are still to come. Kara never got the chance to answer Danny's offer. That evening, as she and Vito returned to La Familia to regroup, gunfire erupted across the street. Carlo's men had launched a full assault on Vito's territory. Get inside, Vito shouted, pushing Kara toward the restaurant as bullets shattered the windows. Chaos erupted. Patrons screamed, diving under tables. Vito's men returned fire, creating a defensive line. Kara crouched behind the bar, heart hammering in her chest as glass exploded around her. Through the chaos, she spotted Vito moving toward his office, where she knew he kept his safe with documents and cash. But he didn't see the gunman who had slipped in through the kitchen. Vito, watch out, Kara shouted, but her voice was lost in the gunfire. Without thinking, she grabbed a bottle from the bar and sprinted across the room, smashing it against the gunman's head just as he raised his weapon. The man staggered, and Vito spun around, gun already drawn. A single shot, and the threat was eliminated. For a moment, their eyes locked across the bullet-riddled restaurant. Something passed between them, acknowledgement, gratitude, and something deeper neither was ready to name. The attack was over almost as quickly as it began. Carlo's men retreated, leaving 3 of Vito's guards wounded and the restaurant in ruins. Why did you do that? Vito asked later as they sat in his office surveying the damage reports. You could have been killed. Kara couldn't explain it herself. I don't know, I just reacted. Vito studied her face. You saved my life. His hand moved toward hers but stopped short of touching it. I won't forget that. The moment was interrupted by Vito's phone. It was the hospital. Tyler had discovered something, a document in the hospital's database showing unusual payments to his medical account dating back years before his current stay. Payments authorized by Thomas Bennett and Vito Moretti jointly. The mystery of her father's connection to Vito deepened. What had bound these men together, and why had Vito continued these payments long after her father's death? The blood on the floor, the secrets in the shadows? You're witnessing a world most never see. Kara saved Vito's life today, crossing a line she never thought she would. The mystery of their connection grows deeper with each chapter. Subscribe now to uncover the truth that binds these families together. Can you really stop now when answers are just within reach? Danny stood in a dimly lit parking garage surrounded by men who'd once been loyal to his father. Vito Moretti's time is over, he told them, voice steady and determined. He's lost his edge. Carlo's gaining ground, and innocent people are getting caught in the crossfire. The men exchanged glances, years of loyalty battling with their growing doubts. What about the Bennett girl? One asked. He's obsessed with protecting her. Danny's jaw tightened. That's his weakness, and we'll use it. Across town, Kara sat beside Tyler's hospital bed, watching his monitors with growing concern. The doctors were worried. His recovery had stalled, complications emerging that they hadn't anticipated. We need to move him to a specialist facility, the doctor explained, but the insurance. Money isn't an issue, Kara interrupted, the words feeling strange on her tongue. How quickly she'd accepted Vito's resources as her own. The door opened and a nurse entered. There's someone asking for you downstairs, Miss Bennett. In the hospital parking lot, a black town car waited. The back door opened to reveal Carlo Fiore, his cold eyes assessing her. Get in, he said. We need to talk. Against her better judgment, Kara slid into the seat. Your brother doesn't look good, Carlo observed. Such a shame. What do you want? Kara demanded. Carlo smiled. To offer you a way out. Vito's days are numbered. His own son works against him. His lieutenants desert him. He leaned closer. Give me what I want, and I'll ensure you and your brother disappear safely. What do you want? Information on Vito's next shipment and access to his private safe at La Familia. Before Kara could respond, the car door was wrenched open. Vito stood there, fury radiating from him as he pulled Kara from the car. Touch her again, he told Carlo, and our truce ends permanently. As Carlo's car pulled away, Vito turned to Kara, anger shifting to concern. What did he want? Information, access to your safe. She met his gaze. Why does everyone think I have such power over you? Vito's expression softened. Because they see what I've tried to hide. He touched her face gently. My interest in you has never been just about your father's debt, Kara. The revelation hung between them, interrupted by Kara's phone ringing. It was the hospital. Tyler had taken a turn for the worse. You've just witnessed a turning point, Vito's confession and Tyler's life hanging by a thread. The stakes have never been higher, and the choices Kara faces will change everything. Can you really leave now, knowing what's at risk? Subscribe to see how this dangerous game unfolds. Don't you want to know what happens when love and loyalty collide with survival? The next 24 hours passed in a blur of hospital corridors and whispered medical terms. Tyler was stabilized but remained critical. Vito never left Kara's side, his presence both comforting and confusing after his admission. When they finally returned to La Familia, the restaurant was closed. The main floor transformed into a war room. Maps covered tables, men with guns stood at every entrance, and tension hung thick in the air. Carlo's moving on the South Side warehouse tonight, Vito told his captains. We'll be ready. Kara watched from the doorway as Vito commanded his men, saw the respect and fear in their eyes. This was the side of him she'd tried to ignore, the ruthless leader capable of violence she could barely imagine. Later, alone in Vito's office, she confronted him. If Carlo comes after the warehouse, it's the perfect time for him to strike elsewhere. It could be a trap. Vito looked up from his desk, surprised. You're right. How did you figure that out? My father, she said quietly. He taught me to think 3 moves ahead. Said it was the only way to survive. Pain flickered across Vito's face. Thomas was always the strategic one. He hesitated. There's something you should know about your father, about why I've watched over you all these years. Before he could continue, Danny burst in, gun drawn. It's over, Father. Carlo's men are surrounding the building, and half your crew has already surrendered. Vito didn't reach for his weapon. Is this your doing, Daniel? Someone had to end this war. Danny's eyes shifted to Kara. I told you he was dangerous, that you couldn't trust him. What he didn't tell you, Vito countered, is why I've protected you all these years. Why I've had men watching your apartment, your workplace, your brother. Tell her, Father, Danny challenged. Tell her how you promised Thomas you'd keep his children safe after you ordered his death. The accusation hung in the air, but Vito's eyes never left Kara's face. That's not true. I loved your father like a brother. When he was targeted, I tried to save him. Then why the secrecy? Kara demanded. Why watch me from the shadows instead of just telling me the truth? Because the people who wanted Thomas dead would come after you next if they knew you were under my protection. Vito moved closer, his voice dropping. Everything I've done, the surveillance, the distance, even hiring you, was to keep you safe while keeping you separate from my world. The building's lights suddenly cut out. Through the windows, car headlights illuminated the street as vehicles surrounded the restaurant. It's Carlo, Danny said, lowering his gun. You have a choice, Kara. Come with me now or stay with him and burn. Vito's eyes held hers in the darkness, asking a question he wouldn't voice aloud. Trust me. The words hung unspoken between them, along with something deeper neither had dared to acknowledge. In that moment, Kara realized her heart had already made its choice. The walls are closing in, the truth finally surfacing. You've come this far into a world of shadows and secrets. Can you really turn back now? Vito has protected Kara from the darkness while Danny offers escape. But which man truly has her best interests at heart? Subscribe to witness the choice that will determine not just Kara's fate, but the future of everyone she loves. Some stories demand to be finished. Isn't this one of them? I'm staying with Vito, Kara said, her voice steadier than she felt. Danny's face hardened. You're making a mistake? Maybe, she admitted, but it's my mistake to make. The moment the words left her mouth, the front windows exploded as Carlo's men opened fire. Vito grabbed Kara, pulling her behind his desk as bullets tore through the office. We need to get to the panic room, he shouted over the gunfire, pointing to a barely visible door behind a bookshelf. As they made their way through the restaurant's hidden passages, Kara's phone rang. The hospital. Miss Bennett, the doctor's voice was grave. Your brother is missing. What? Kara stopped cold. How is that possible? Men claiming to be Mr. Moretti's security detail moved him. They had documentation, but we've just confirmed with Mr. Moretti's office that he sent no such men. Kara looked at Vito, horror dawning. They've taken Tyler. Within minutes, a text arrived from an unknown number, a photo of Tyler, unconscious, hooked to portable medical equipment. The message was simple, the warehouse. Come alone or he dies. It's Carlo, Vito said, his face dark with fury, using your brother to draw you out. I have to go, Kara said immediately. Vito grabbed her arm. It's a death sentence. He's my brother, Kara pulled away. I raised him, protected him. I won't abandon him now. Then I'm coming with you, the message said alone. I don't care what it said. Vito's voice softened unexpectedly. I've spent years watching over you from a distance. Not anymore. He took her face in his hands, and for the first time, Kara saw the full depth of emotion he'd been hiding. I lost your father. I won't lose you too. Why do you care so much? She whispered. Vito's answer was a kiss, desperate, passionate, the culmination of feelings he'd kept locked away for years. When they broke apart, his eyes held a vulnerability she'd never seen before. Now you know, he said simply. As they prepared to leave, Danny appeared in the doorway, gun drawn. You can't trust him, Kara. He's using you, just like he used everyone else. Get out of our way, Daniel, Vito warned. Tyler's life is at stake. That's why I'm here, Danny said. I know where they're taking him, and I know a way in that Carlo doesn't. Kara looked between father and son, both claiming to want to help, both hiding secrets she couldn't begin to untangle. Which man could she truly trust with her brother's life? Can you feel the weight of this decision? Tyler's life hangs in the balance while Kara must decide who to trust, the man who's protected her from afar, or the son who promises escape. The truth lies buried beneath years of secrets and lies. Subscribe now to see how this impossible choice unfolds, because some moments change everything, and this is one of them. The abandoned warehouse loomed against the night sky, its broken windows like empty eyes watching their approach. Following Danny's lead, they entered through a rusted service door, bypassing Carlo's lookouts. Tyler will be in the manager's office, Danny whispered, second floor, west side. Vito's men created a diversion at the main entrance while Kara, Vito, and Danny slipped upstairs. Through a grimy window, Kara spotted Tyler on a gurney, his medical equipment beeping steadily. 2 armed guards stood watch. I'll go first, Vito said, checking his gun. When I give the signal... Danny struck without warning, hitting Vito from behind. As Vito crumpled to the floor, Danny caught him, lowering him silently. "What are you doing?" Kara hissed. "Saving you both," Danny said. "Carlo doesn't want you or Tyler. He wants my father. This was the only way." Understanding dawned on Kara. "You set this up. You took Tyler." "I did what was necessary." Danny pulled zip ties from his pocket, securing Vito's wrists. "Carlo gets my father, I take over the business, and you and Tyler go free. Everyone wins." "Except Vito," Kara said coldly. "My father made his choices." Danny's voice hardened. "Now it's time to pay for them." As Danny dragged the unconscious Vito toward the office, Kara followed, her mind racing. She couldn't let Vito die, but Tyler needed immediate medical attention. Inside the office, Carlo waited, flanked by his bodyguards. His smile widened at the sight of Vito. "Daniel," he greeted. "You delivered, as promised." "As promised," Danny echoed, pushing Vito forward. "Now let them go." Carlo's eyes shifted to Kara. "Not quite yet. There's still the matter of Thomas Bennett's ledger." "What ledger?" Kara asked. "The one documenting every transaction, every bribe, every murder ordered by the Moretti family for the past 20 years, Carlo explained. "Your father kept records of everything, records Vito has been desperately searching for." Vito stirred, blood trickling from where Danny had struck him. His eyes found Kara's, filled with a silent warning. "I don't have any ledger," Kara insisted. "Then perhaps your brother knows where it is." Carlo nodded to one of his men who moved toward Tyler. "Don't touch him!" Kara lunged forward, only to be grabbed by another guard. Gunfire erupted downstairs. Vito's men had breached the building. Carlo cursed, drawing his gun and pointing it at Vito. "Tell me where the ledger is, or he dies right now." The chaos that followed happened in heartbeats, Vito breaking free from his restraints, Danny drawing his weapon, guards rushing toward the door. In the confusion, a shot rang out, then another. Bodies fell. Blood pooled on the concrete floor. And amidst it all, Kara made a discovery that would change everything, the truth about who her father really was, and why Vito had protected her family all these years. The warehouse echoes with gunfire, blood staining the concrete as loyalties crumble. The ledger, a bomb waiting to explode, could destroy everything Vito has built. What will Kara discover about her father's past, about Vito's true motives? You've come too far to turn back now. Subscribe to witness the truth that will change everything, because some secrets are worth dying for, and others are worth killing to protect. When the gunfire finally stopped, Kara found herself standing in the aftermath of chaos. Carlo lay dead, a bullet through his chest. Danny pressed against the wall, bleeding from his shoulder. And Vito, somehow still standing, gun in hand, eyes locked on his son. "You betrayed me," Vito said, his voice low and dangerous. "You betrayed yourself," Danny countered, wincing in pain. "Everything you built, everything you stood for, it all became about her." He nodded toward Kara. "About the Bennetts." Kara rushed to Tyler's side, checking his vital signs. He was stable but needed medical attention. "We need to get him to a hospital," she insisted. "Not until you hear the truth," Danny said. "All of it." Vito's men secured the warehouse as an uneasy standoff formed between father and son. Danny pulled a flash drive from his pocket. "This is what Carlo wanted," he said. "What everyone's been looking for. Your father's records, Kara, every detail of the Moretti family business for 20 years. "Why would my father have those records?" Kara asked. Vito's expression changed, resignation replacing anger. "Because Thomas Bennett wasn't just my right hand," he said quietly. "He was my half-brother." The revelation hit Kara like a physical blow. "That's impossible." "Our father had a second family," Vito continued. "Thomas was his firstborn but illegitimate. When our father died, I brought Thomas into the business, gave him the respect he deserved." "But kept him in the shadows," Danny added bitterly, "never acknowledging him publicly as a Moretti." "To protect him," Vito insisted. "The other families would have targeted him immediately." Kara's mind reeled. So Tyler and I are Moretti's by blood, Vito confirmed, which makes Tyler my nephew and a legitimate heir to everything I've built. Danny laughed darkly. Now you understand why he's been watching over you all these years, not out of love or loyalty, but to control the only other legitimate claim to the Moretti empire. Vito stepped closer to Kara, his eyes pleading. It started that way, he admitted. But it changed. You changed it. The ledger proves everything, Danny said. Your father documented Vito's involvement in his death. How Vito gave the order when Thomas threatened to go public with their relationship. That's a lie, Vito's voice shook with emotion. I tried to save him. I failed. Both men turned to Kara, waiting for her judgment. In that moment, she realized the power she held, not just over their lives, but over an entire criminal empire. The men who killed my father, she asked Vito. What happened to them? They're dead, Vito answered without hesitation. All of them. I made sure of it. Kara looked between them, Danny offering freedom through betrayal, Vito offering protection through control. Neither path was clean, neither man was innocent. But only one had stood by her family for years, however flawed his methods. Tyler comes first, she said firmly. We get him to a hospital, then we deal with the rest. Both men recognized the authority in her voice, the voice of a woman who had just discovered she was born to lead. The truth changes everything, doesn't it? Kara isn't just a waitress caught in a dangerous game. She's a Moretti by blood, with a claim to power she never knew existed. The past has finally come to light, but the future remains unwritten. Subscribe now to witness how this newfound legacy transforms Kara's path. Can she embrace this dark inheritance, or will she forge something new from the ashes of family secrets? The headlines broke at dawn. Mafia kingpin arrested. Grainy photos showed Vito Moretti being led away in handcuffs, his empire crumbling around him. What the papers didn't show was the betrayal that put him there, Danny's final move in a game years in the making. 3 days had passed since the warehouse, 3 days of hospital rooms, police questions, and impossible decisions. Tyler was recovering, finally stable, and asking questions Kara wasn't ready to answer. You turned him in, Kara said, facing Danny across the hospital cafeteria table. After everything, you still betrayed him. I gave him a choice, Danny replied. Step down willingly, let me take over, clean up the business. He refused. So you handed him to the FBI. I handed them Carlo and his lieutenants, Danny corrected. Vito was collateral damage. Outside, rain pattered against the windows, matching Kara's dark mood. And what about us? Are we collateral damage too? Danny reached for her hand, which she pulled away. You and Tyler are family. I'd never harm you. But you'd use us, Kara said coldly, just like everyone else. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number with an address and time, a chance to see Vito before his transfer to federal prison. You're not actually considering going, Danny said, reading her expression. You don't get to tell me what to do anymore, Kara stood. None of you do. The detention center was cold and impersonal. Kara sat at a metal table waiting. When guards brought Vito in, she barely recognized him, his expensive suit replaced by prison orange, his commanding presence diminished by handcuffs and armed guards. You came, he said, surprise and something like hope in his voice. I needed answers, Kara replied. Ask. Did you kill my father? Vito's eyes never left hers. No, but I failed to stop it. The Fiore family discovered he was my half-brother. They saw him as a threat. And you've been protecting us ever since. I promised him I would. Vito leaned forward. But that's not why I continued, not entirely. Then why? His expression softened. Because watching you from a distance, I saw someone extraordinary. Strong, determined. Loyal. He paused. Someone I could love if things were different. The confession hung between them, complicated by blood ties and criminal legacies. Danny's taking over, Kara said, promising to legitimize everything. Daniel has always been idealistic, Vito's smile was sad. But the other families won't let him. There will be war. Unless someone with respect in both worlds steps in, Vito finished. Someone with Bennett's strategic mind and Moretti blood. The implication was clear. Kara could walk away, back to her simple life as a waitress. Or she could step into a position of power few women in this world ever achieved. "I never wanted this life," she whispered. "I know," Vito replied. "That's why you're perfect for it." As Kara left the detention center, she found Danny waiting by her car. "He asked you to take over, didn't he?" Danny's voice was resigned. "Would you accept me if I did?" Kara challenged. Their eyes locked in silent negotiation, the beginning of an alliance neither had anticipated but both now recognized as necessary. The city's power structure stood at a crossroads with Kara Bennett, waitress, sister, newly discovered Moretti, holding the key to its future. Everything has changed. Vito behind bars, Danny's revolution incomplete, and Kara, once a simple waitress, now stands at the center of a criminal empire in transition. What choice will she make? Can she forge justice from a legacy built on blood and betrayal? The final chapter awaits, and nothing will ever be the same. Subscribe now to witness the conclusion of this dark, twisted journey. Some stories stay with you forever. This is one of them. 6 months transformed Kara Bennett from a waitress into someone unrecognizable. She sat at the head of the table in La Familia's private room, 12 of the city's most dangerous men waiting for her decision. The restaurant had been rebuilt, stronger, more elegant, just like its new owner. "The Fiori territory is ours now," she said, her voice calm but commanding. "But we do things differently. No drugs, no trafficking, no innocent casualties." Some of the older captains shifted uncomfortably. One spoke up. "With respect, Miss Bennett, this business doesn't work that way." Kara's gaze hardened. "It does now." Beside her sat Tyler, recovered and growing stronger each day. At 16, he was learning the family business, both its dark realities and Kara's vision for its future, a future where power didn't require cruelty. After the meeting, Kara visited the prison. These visits had become routine, a strange comfort in her new life. Vito looked better than last time, less haunted. His case was progressing, with Danny's testimony proving crucial for both prosecution and defense. "You've done well," Vito said after hearing her update. "Thomas would be proud." "Would he?" Kara asked quietly. "His daughter running the empire he tried to escape?" "He wanted justice, not escape," Vito corrected. "The system was broken. He wanted to fix it, not abandon it." Their hands met across the table, guards pretending not to notice. What existed between them defied simple labels, deeper than family, more complex than romance. "Danny's plea deal comes through next week," Kara said. 5 years, minimum security. "And your deal with the prosecutor?" Kara smiled slightly. "Immunity in exchange for information, and your sentence reduced." "You've thought of everything," Vito said with pride. "I learned from the best." Later, as Kara and Tyler returned to their new penthouse overlooking the city, she allowed herself a moment of reflection. The path she'd chosen wasn't clean, it wasn't simple. But in a world built on broken rules, perhaps the only way to find justice was to rewrite those rules entirely. Tyler went to bed while Kara stood on the balcony watching her city. Her phone rang, an unknown number. "You think you've won?" a woman's voice said. "You think you've changed things." "Who is this?" Kara demanded. "Someone who knows the truth about your father, about what really happened the night he died." The line went dead, leaving Kara with the unsettling knowledge that her journey wasn't over. It had only just begun. The game had new players now, the rules were changing. And Kara Bennett, once just a waitress, now the most powerful woman in Chicago, was ready for whatever came next. Justice, after all, was a path, not a destination. You've witnessed Kara's extraordinary transformation from waitress to queen of Chicago's underworld. But that mysterious phone call proves her story is far from over. The truth about her father's death remains buried, waiting to be uncovered. Don't you need to know what happens next? Subscribe now and be the first to know when the next chapter begins. Some journeys demand to be followed to their true end, and Kara's fight for justice has only just begun. Will you be there when the next call comes?